The sun hit the glass towers of Metropolis with a sharp, morning glint. Below, the plaza was already waking up. Commuters moved in synchronized lines, taxis hummed through the intersections, and the rhythm of a standard, peaceful day hummed in the air. Everything was in its place. Then, the sound started. It began as a low vibration, a rhythmic rumble that defied the morning calm. It was not the sound of traffic or machinery, but something far more organic and aggressive. It echoed down from the highest penthouse balcony, cascading over the city like a thunderclap. Every few seconds, the air seemed to shudder with a guttural, resonant snore. It was steady. It was heavy. It was completely oblivious to the world below. A pigeon landed on the railing of the balcony, tilted its head at the source of the noise, and immediately flew away. Down on the street, a businessman checked his watch, looked up at the penthouse, and shook his head. The city was moving, the day was beginning, but the most powerful force in Metropolis was currently fast asleep, soundly ignoring the morning light. The sky over the plaza darkened as a shadow fell across the pavement. A massive metallic fist slammed into the fountain, turning stone to shrapnel. The roar of the impact was deafening. People scattered, abandoning their morning coffees as the sidewalk buckled beneath the weight of a giant robot. A sedan was swatted aside like a toy, tumbling through the air until it smashed into a storefront. Metal shrieked against concrete. The air filled with the scent of ozone and dust. Panic surged through the plaza, a wave of shouting and running feet. Yet, a few blocks away, the noise was merely a distant tremor. Inside the bedroom, the alarm clock shrieked its final note. A hand emerged from the heavy blankets, blindly swinging at the bedside table. With a dull thud, the clock was flattened against the nightstand, its casing caving in until it looked like a rubbery, useless pancake. The hand retreated back into the warmth of the bedding. Outside, the robot took another step, cracking the pavement, but the room remained silent, save for the rhythmic, steady breathing of a man who refused to wake up for the apocalypse. Inside the office of the mayor, the floor vibrated with every heavy footfall of the machine outside. The mayor gripped the edge of his desk, his knuckles white, as he watched a skyscraper facade crumble through his window. He snatched his mobile phone from the cradle, his thumb shaking as he dialed the only number that mattered. The line rang once, twice, 3 times, each tone a mocking reminder of the city's ticking clock. He shouted into the receiver, his voice cracking with the strain of 1,000 panicked citizens. "Jack, where are you? The downtown district is becoming a scrapyard. The bridge is down, the plaza is gone, and the entire city is falling apart." Back in the penthouse, the phone buzzed against the hardwood floor. A hand reached out, fumbling through the dark, and pressed the speaker button without opening an eye. Jack let out a long, slow breath that sounded like a sigh of disappointment. "Is it Tuesday?" he muttered, his voice thick with sleep. "If it is Tuesday, I am currently recharging. Do not call back until the weekend." He hung up, leaving the mayor staring at a dead line, while the sound of grinding metal tore through the city walls. Outside, the robot swiveled its torso, releasing a concentrated beam of searing energy. The laser carved a molten line through the pavement, vaporizing a row of parked cars. Metal shrapnel rained down on the plaza like sleet. Police vehicles spun in erratic circles, their tires smoking against the asphalt as the machine advanced, its heavy hydraulic limbs crushing anything in its path. Each step sent a shockwave through the city grid, rattling windows for miles. Inside the kitchen, the world was a different dimension. Jack shuffled across the tiles, one hand dragging a blanket that trailed behind him like a heavy anchor. He reached the counter and placed a mug down with a dull clink. He poured the coffee with agonizing deliberation, his eyes half-lidded, his movements sluggish. A massive explosion outside shattered the glass of his balcony door, sending shards flying across the floor, but Jack merely paused, tilted his head, and waited for the steam to rise. He did not look toward the smoke. He did not check the window. He turned back to the counter, focused entirely on the precise angle of his spoon, while the horizon burned orange and the sound of falling masonry grew louder by the second. The plaza was a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered glass. Smoke curled into the air, obscuring the sky, when a figure emerged from the haze. Jack walked into the center of the devastation, his pace steady and unhurried. He held a steaming mug of coffee in his right hand and a heavy blanket draped over his left arm. The screaming crowd fell into an eerie, sudden silence, watching the man navigate through the debris as if he were strolling through a quiet park. He stopped 20 feet from the base of the machine. The ground trembled as the robot adjusted its stance, its massive sensors locking onto him. A hatch in the center of the machine slid open, and the voice of the operator boomed across the plaza, amplified by heavy speakers. "You are late." "Hero!" the voice echoed, vibrating through the remaining stone walls. Jack took a slow, deliberate sip of his coffee, feeling the heat against his lips. He let out a soft, tired breath, looking up at the towering steel frame with half-closed eyes. "I am not late," he replied, his voice calm and steady against the roar of the machine's cooling vents. "I am simply pacing myself." The machine did not wait for an answer. Its massive hydraulic arm retracted, gears whining with a high-pitched metallic screech that cut through the air. Then, it snapped forward like a whip. The trajectory was designed to flatten everything in its path, turning concrete and steel into dust. Jack did not run. He did not brace himself. He simply shifted his weight to his back heel. The world seemed to slow down, the frantic sounds of the city fading into a dull hum. As the colossal metal limb whistled inches from his nose, Jack leaned back, his spine arching with fluid, almost liquid ease. His right hand remained perfectly steady. The coffee in his mug did not even ripple, the surface remaining as flat as a mirror throughout the entire motion. The robot's fist slammed into a concrete wall behind him, sending a massive plume of debris into the air. Jack straightened up, his feet planted firmly in the same spot where he had started. He blinked once, slowly, and took another sip of his drink. The steel arm retracted, leaving a jagged crater in the masonry. But Jack remained unbothered, his gaze drifting toward the horizon as if the near-death experience were nothing more than a passing breeze. The robot recoiled, its sensors whirring as it attempted to recalibrate its next strike. Jack did not move to counter. Instead, he tilted his head back, his mouth opening in a long, wide yawn that seemed to last for several seconds. The sound of his exhale was surprisingly loud in the relative stillness of the plaza. He looked at the machine with a look of mild annoyance, as if it were an alarm clock that had gone off far too early. With a heavy sigh, he took a final sip of his coffee and set the cup down carefully on a nearby piece of fallen masonry. He reached out one hand, his arm moving with the speed of a falling leaf. He extended a single finger and tapped the center of the robot's primary chassis. The touch was light, almost imperceptible, yet the reaction was immediate. The machine stiffened, its internal gyroscopes screaming as they failed to compensate for the sudden, off-center pressure. It began to sway. The massive metal legs stumbled, clanking against the pavement. Before the robot tripped over its own oversized feet, it crashed forward, smashing through a stack of abandoned crates and metal refuse, coming to a final, jarring halt in a mountain of trash. The silence that followed was absolute. The pile of twisted metal groaned. A hatch on the robot's chest burst open, and the pilot scrambled out, his face twisted into a mask of pure fury. He stood atop the heap of debris, pointing a shaking finger directly at Jack. He shouted about his genius, his grand plan, and the total humiliation of this defeat. Jack ignored the shouting entirely. He stood a few feet away, squinting at the mess, and reached out to smooth his rumpled state. He took a half step forward to find better footing, but his heel caught on a piece of protruding rebar. He lurched forward, his arms windmilling to regain balance. His elbow swung outward, snapping with sudden, unintentional force. It connected perfectly with a recessed red button on the side of the robot's primary control panel. A sharp, rhythmic beep echoed across the plaza. The lights on the machine flickered once, turned a dull, lifeless gray, and died. The pilot stared at the inactive machine in disbelief. He screamed that the manual never covered this outcome. Jack simply blinked, oblivious to the gravity of the moment, and stifled another yawn as the threat vanished into absolute silence. The silence of the defeated machine lasted only a heartbeat before the plaza roared. Thousands of people surged toward the stage, their cheers vibrating through the pavement. The mayor pushed through the throng, clutching a massive, heavy gold medal that caught the afternoon sun. He reached the center of the stage, his face beaming with relief as he faced the crowd. He turned to Jack, who was standing perfectly still, his eyes half closed and his breathing already slowing down. The mayor stepped forward, looped the thick ribbon over Jack's head, and settled the heavy gold disc against his chest with a proud flourish. He waited for a speech, a grin, or even a brief nod of acknowledgement. Instead, Jack reached up, felt the solid weight of the gold, and seemed to find it lacking in comfort. He took the medal in both hands, folded the metal disc back against the ribbon, and pressed it against his own head. With a soft, rhythmic exhale, he leaned his full weight onto the mayor's shoulder. The mayor stiffened, looking at the audience, then back at the man now dead to the world. A soft, unmistakable sound of snoring began to drift across the plaza, rising above the fading cheers of the crowd. The mayor stood frozen, the heavy gold medal acting as a makeshift pillow for the slumbering hero. He cleared his throat, glanced down at the peaceful face on his shoulder, and then looked directly into the lens. He held up a hand to quiet the remaining murmurs. "Real strength is not about showing off," he said, his voice steady against the soft, rhythmic whistle of snoring. "It is about staying calm, staying kind, and knowing exactly when to save your energy for what truly matters." He offered a weary, knowing shrug, his expression softening as the camera began to pull back. A graphic overlay flickered onto the screen, bright and bold, urging the viewers to like, comment, and subscribe. In the background, the hero remained perfectly still, oblivious to the applause, the speech, and the entire city. As the image began to drift into a soft, golden blur, the ambient noise of the plaza faded into a singular, sharp sound. It was a cheeky, high-pitched snore that echoed one last time through the air. The screen dipped into black, leaving only the fading resonance of the final breath before total silence took hold.